Hi, I'm Andrew, an entrepreneur and a computer science student,
Hi, I'm Raveen, a psychology major student.
and you're now listening to the Ink Thoughts podcast, where we ponder and talk about incongruous thoughts ranging from our daily life to the human mind.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ink Thoughts podcast. So, how are you, Vareen?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing fine. Just right now I'm a bit nervous but exciting.
Okay, yes, Vareen is nervous for a reason because today we have a guest on the pod. Actually, someone that I actually know for quite some time because I first got to know him through the Not Overthinking podcast and listening to him, especially one particular idea, which I was really impressed. So it was about actually buying a house for your sibling so that since you are like, let's say if you are able to live you are in a financial freedom path already, you can just try to make sure that your siblings can kind of do the same. They don't have to worry about getting a roof above their head. So today over here we have Paul Millett on the podcast. So hi Paul, how are you, and would you like to share a bit of your background to the audience?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to chat with you. Don't be nervous. I'm just another person. So my background of note here is probably I worked for about 10 years in strategy consulting, and left in 2017 to chart my own path. Didn't really expect what I was about to embark on when I quit my job. And for the past 5 years, I've been writing about my relationship to work, exploring what others are telling me in conversations I have with them, and recently published a book earlier this year called The Pathless Path, talking about my story and a lot of those things I've learned.
Amazing. Yeah, that I saw that book as well. It's on my reading list, but I'm just working on my reading habit right now. It's something that I want to read soon in the future as well. It's something that's really interesting. So, yes, may I know what because the most interesting thing I found about when I listened to the podcast and then I read about your blog or something because may I know what are you actually currently working on? How would you describe the things that you're working on right now?
Right now, I write. I write because I love writing, and I've only made money writing for the first time this year. But it's something probably 4 or 5 years ago I realized that made me feel alive, made me feel connected to myself, the world, and was something I sort of needed to protect and have as part of my life. Then I try to earn money to fund that life. So I do a bit of coaching and teaching some of my former skills of strategy consulting to knowledge work teams in corporate and small consulting firms. So do a bit of that, but it's not my main focus. My main energy focus is probably my writing, my Boundless newsletter, and the book, and things like that.
That's cool. But yeah, the interesting part is that you worked in 10 years in strategy consulting, and then you just had what is the point that made you think that I should stop maybe working in the corporate world and then just jump out and start doing things on my own, start figure out my life, something like that.
It wasn't really a point. And this is what I talk about in my book. It was always this orientation I had towards work, which was a question. What are we doing here? Why are grown men and women pretending like this stuff is so important when so much of it is clearly not? And eventually, most people learn to just ignore that question or come up with an answer. Well, what are you supposed to do? Just not work? And so that was always the question lingering in the back of my head. Eventually, through experiments on the side, I jumped around job to job. I worked 5 full-time jobs in 10 years and took 2 years to go to grad school. I just kept jumping around. And what I was seeking was, oh, find my dream job. The next job will be it. And I definitely enjoyed what I was doing, but I sort of was seeking an experience or a state of being which would tell me, okay, I finally arrived. Unfortunately, I never found that. And I tell people I sort of ran out of moves. So I quit to become a freelancer as another one of those moves. Oh, maybe a freelancer, I'll be happy. What I experienced when I left to become a freelancer was not that, oh, this is it. It was that the space that opened up in my life with the increased freedom and flexibility told me that there was a different way of being that was possible. And that state of being was sort of what I wanted to build my life around.
Okay, just when you say you started being a freelancer, so I actually have a few friends doing freelance at the moment. So what they actually told me is that they have an insecurity when they don't have any job being pre-planned and all. Do you have the same feeling when you first started out being a freelancer?
I still have it. I'm not sure how I'll make money 6 months from now. But I'm not sure where it's written that you're allowed to be free of this feeling. Like, uncertainty is part of life. However, we've entered into a mass agreement that if I work a full-time job and you work a full-time job, we'll pretend like life is not uncertain. And that is what employment does for a lot of people. Because so many people do it, it is the default path. So we've entered into this agreement of saying like, okay, life is scary. If you do the job thing, I do the job thing, and so many people do the job thing, we can sort of pretend like we have it all figured out, right? So unfortunately, the uncertainty is underneath, and a lot of people feel this. They say, I know I should be happy. I have a good job. I have good pay. This is what everything is telling me I am happy, but like something is off and I don't understand it. That something that is off is typically that like, oh, there is this uncertainty and the job or the way I'm structuring my life doesn't actually solve it. But it's really hard to see that when everyone else is kind of just like going along and doing the thing.
Okay. I guess one thing is because, because of course we, as humans, we tend to just care too much about outcomes. We like to see like what we think as success. So like, of course, because like too many people go on to like the employment path, going on securing a job or something, and then we just see that, of course, many of them ended up with like good proper lives, but not many, like there's not too many examples that especially even within our family that do freelancers and everything and then turn out to be what socially accepted as successful. That's why it just pushes many people into thinking like employment is the way to go if you don't want to like starve and die in the next 10 years or something. But in fact, it's actually like freelancing is probably like the same thing as well, and it probably makes you move even better because you have that uncertainty that possibly push you further, try to improve yourself, do more things, make sure that you're more secure in different ways that makes you more valuable. That's like, would you agree on this?
I don't think we want outcomes. I think outcomes tempt us and are very outcomes are very tempting when we're young and we have no idea what we're doing, and society tells you that the most important thing is to pick a path, right? You need to start pretending that the path is what you want to stay on for the rest of your life, and that will give you the evidence that everything in your life is going well, right? It gives you a story, right? But as we get older, those paths become less clear. They reveal themselves to not be a path at all. We change our minds about what we want to do. We go through transitions and things like that. eventually most people realize that like what they want is not the outcomes. What they want is a sort of life, a way of setting up their life, which helps them feel connected to themselves, feels challenged, feels inspired. Generally, the day-to-day experience of life and the story we tell ourselves about that, right? The reason so many structured paths work well early on in people's lives is that they often are structured and challenging. You enter the workforce in the first few years, it's very challenging. You're learning a lot. You sort of just work for 2 years and then you get promoted, right? And you think for the rest of your life, oh, that is how life will go. I'll just work hard, I'll learn a lot, and then I'll get promoted. What happened to me is I loved consulting at first, but then over time, the learning shifted from learn how to do these skills and become better at things to learn how to fit in and please the bosses, right? That was not how I wanted to spend my time on this earth. And it destroyed me. Like, I couldn't do that. But the biggest problem was I didn't have an imagination of another possible life.
Okay. That is very true. I mean, like, yeah, because, well, I guess I am lucky in a way that I've only actually got one proper job. I have only gotten one proper job throughout. Like, I'm actually now 22, so I only had one internship. Then I started my own company, so I got the feeling of how much I'm able to be in control and how much I'm able to do more things when I'm doing company. Then I started my YouTube, worked on this podcast, went back to study for a year, and now I'm only stepping into my second proper job. But of course, from my friends because I took a gap year when I was starting my company, from my friends, they graduated a year before me. I hear that, yeah, sometimes they've lost the fire in them while working because they realize that
at 22.
Yeah, actually, like just
That's
recently
not good.
a friend, yeah, because
Why? Like, what are they? Why are they doing this? Like, the thing is, like, you also need to like understand, like, right, there are enormous pressures to fit in and please people, right? We think a lot of people in previous generations have this scarcity mindset of like, don't take any risks in life, right? And a lot of people adopt that script because they don't have any other sense of what their lives could be. So a lot of people are like, well, what will people think of me if I do this other thing? And it's like, well, people might think you suck, but you might actually find a path worth being on.
Yeah, I guess that's another thing about I mean, I'm not blaming the Asian community, but because like I'll say that within the Asian culture, we're more of a collectivism culture, so we care more about, like community and everything. So it's not so
harmony.
much individualistic like in the Western. So we care more about how our parents think, more about what our neighbors say, something like that. So it's harder to not conform with our community, not do what our community do. So especially when we step out of our comfort zone and something, it's hardly do we get any support or any praise, and people will just have look at you weirdly and thinking like, so what are you doing now? Like, are you ever having fun making videos, or like you're doing this podcast thing? So like, what are you actually creating? Is it earning any money? Like you just speak of random topics on the internet, and what do you expect to do? That's like the funny thing, but of course I'm glad that even though like through like previous episode I said that
Why
I
do you
discussed
do
about
it?
how my pardon what
Why do you do it?
actually a very simple reason. I'll start with podcast. Podcast is more of a very simple reason. Because the first podcast which I actually like put an effort into listening is the Not Overthinking podcast, amazing podcast, and I was listening it every time when I was back in Malaysia last year. I was like every week I'll just drive to Verine's place and then like pick her up, bring her to my place, have a date or something. And during that journey, I'll just listen to that podcast, and it's because their podcast is a really simple one. They are just two brothers speaking about random topics they thought about, and then it just struck me like, because there's this funny thing between me and Vereen that we speak a lot. We can have conversations for hours about random topics every day, which is a good thing. But I was like, since we're talking so much, like, and some of the topics are really interesting. Yeah, so we're like, why not? We just kind of like add a bit more value to it by trying out to make it onto a podcast. And at that time, I know that I'm gonna come to the UK. I'm gonna study in the UK, so we're gonna enter a long distance relationship. So I'm like, having this weekly commitment where we talk on the podcast, publish it. I guess it forces to have something that we're working together, like forces to have a certain alignment on our mindset on certain things. So it just worked that out, and yeah, that's how we just did it. Because the thing is, like, podcast is actually quite low commitment, especially if I'm doing together with Vereen. We don't need to find guests or anything, so it's pretty much very easy. Just turn on our laptop, we just record and talk for an hour, and then after that, we'll just pop it online. Yeah, we don't care whether people listen to it. We just do some simple sharing. If people listen, why not? If people don't, we did something. It's cool. But after that, I find that, it's cool doing this. Rarely people do this, but I just find that because like throughout this year, I've absorbed a lot of different new perspective, ideologies from different people. I find that the one important mindset that I gain is that in order to be creative, we don't think out of the box. Instead, we widen our box. So we get more experiences. That's how we can be more creative. So if one simple thing that I can do is if I continue doing this podcast consistently for the next 20, 30, 40 years, it will be a norm for my children to think that, like doing podcasts is a normal thing, like creating stuff is normal because, my dad is doing it. Even for my grandchild looking at like, look at my grandpa, like doing this podcasting is a totally normal thing. Like it's built in their mindset, like, it's okay to just do all this kind of stuff. It's not weird, it's not weird to put yourself out there, show yourself, like share about your life, share about your ideas and all that. Yeah, so that's like what I think of doing it. Why do I want to do it now consistently, like for the rest of my life?
Awesome. What about you, Vereen?
Actually, for me, I don't have such a like big dream or what, because for me it's more about like working on myself, because
That's great.
I'll say until today I'm still quite a shy person, and
We're both shy. I would say, like we're both really shy. We're introverts. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not very easy for me to like just meet a person and speak a lot and talk about something random. So yeah, for me it's a way for me to really brush up my skills and all. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I love what you said, Andrew. You're just like, why not? Right?
Yeah.
Well, the fact is, many people have an answer to that question. They say, well, you shouldn't do things if you can't make money, if it's not for something. The fact is, like, what you're doing is you're sort of like planting a flag and you're saying, like, why not do something for the sake of itself, right? Like, you had a lot of fancy explanations. I don't think those are the real explanations. It sounded like you're just curious. Like, you're just curious to, like, try stuff and see what happens. Like, that's curiosity, right? You're curious, right? And, like, this is great information because the world demands stories. The world demands reasons. Why are you doing this? Are you going to try and make money? I guarantee somebody's asked you that, right? Who cares if we make money? We're doing it because it's interesting and I'm following that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And a thing to notice, like, as you get older, like, here's how I look at my life now is like, okay, I have this spirit of curiosity and like wanting to be creative. If that starts dying, that is when I hit the panic button, right? That is when you start like freaking out and saying, okay, how do I reinterrupt my life? It's not when you're like not making money. It's like when you lose that passion for life, that is the risk. Like that's what you're talking about when you're talking about your grandchildren. You're really aspiring to be somebody later in life that is still energized and connected to what you're doing. Right? And like that's what you're saying too, Vareen, is like I want to grow as a person. I want to be somebody that continues to grow and change and lean into that. I read about this in my book, but like we basically grow and change throughout our entire lives. But we pretend like we have to figure everything out by like age 30. It's not true. We change way more than we expect. So why not actually lean into that change and like do it in a direction that's interesting to us?
Okay. So yes, just now you're speaking of why I did podcasts and everything. So yes, what about you actually? Like right now you love writing books, and then like what are your plans like for the future? Like what do you plan to? I like one thing of what that you have written on your Instagram page. So you just love to have conversations with people, get to know people, learn about different people's I think like their experiences and something like that. So yes, like what are your further plans on this? Anything like that?
What did we just talk about? We just talked about not doing stuff for something, right? Right? But this is so common. Like everyone wants to. You write a book, and then people ask you, "Well, are you going to write a second book?"
Okay.
Right? Why don't people ask, "What is the idea that you're still sitting with from that first book?" Mm-hmm. Right? What is the question that's still lingering on your mind? They just ask, when is the second unit coming? It's like, that's really the only question your mind generates. And a lot of what I write about is realizing how deep these stories and scripts are in our world. Like our world now is so dominated by work that we are constantly thinking about everything we do in life as something in service of work. Why are you going to school? To get a job. Why are you studying this? Because I want to be this kind of profession, right? Yeah. Why are you doing this? What is the next thing you want to do? What is the next thing you want to do? It's not about rejecting that. It's just about realizing it's there. And then taking a step back and figuring out, okay, what are the games you actually want to play?
Okay. So, like you say that, I guess that's exactly like why you named the book. Pathless Path, like exactly what that meant. But I'm just like curious. I don't know. Maybe I'm quite at the early age. Actually, something which I realized quite recently. I like what you said just now. I just like to. I'm curious. I like to try stuff. But still, what I have this thing within me is that I tend to do calculated risk. Because when I was doing a lot of job assessment and all that, what happened was that I realized that I don't actually I'm not too much of a risk taker. I realized that whenever I take risk, I do a lot of calculation beforehand, which is that's why I guess I know that this is quite relatively safe. That's why I do it. Like from what I've heard about you, you just do things as you think that like they are suitable. You don't like care about you see what happens next. Like how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean I'm pretty risk averse too. I think a lot of people see my path as risky, but what they're really talking about is they don't want to feel uncomfortable. I've just moved on from the idea that like life is about avoiding discomfort and optimizing for convenience. That to me is not a fun life, right? A lot of people do want just like a very comfortable life, not have to worry about anything, not have to feel uncomfortable. I've sort of realized that there's wisdom in discomfort. So I try to lean into that, but like you don't have to blow up your life, right? This is why, like, when I left my job, I just lowered my cost of living. So, like, my odds of running out of money were basically zero because I was living on $1,000 a month, right? And that's actually something like I've had to learn to play with a little more. Like I think I pushed that too risk averse at the beginning, and now I'm learning to like make some more strategic bets in areas where like, okay, I like doing this thing and there's a good chance it would succeed. How do I actually spend money or invest in it, right? We're so eager to like give an educational institution like $50,000 of our money and go into debt, but like we spending it on ourselves, we're like, oh no, we can't do that, right? But I'm actually learning, okay, like maybe I can spend $1,000 here and invest in this, take a bet, and if I lose the money, like no big deal, right? So learning to lean back into that mode.
That is very true. Yeah, like I guess because I am glad that even though I guess my parents might not be too understanding, but still my dad, even of course people improve, change over the years, and throughout I think the past 5 years, he, even though in certain ways he couldn't understand what I'm doing and something, but he will still try his best to support me, and that's how I ran my business. And I realized that like investing in ourselves is actually one of the most valuable things in the world. You can say that, investing in S&P 500, investing in Tesla stocks, the ROI is a lot higher. But still, like, because everyone have that, I don't know, you have the creativity in yourself that is so special, individual, unique, that you can do so many things, you can provide so much value that are so special that, of course, it is risky because you don't have a customer for your creativity, for the value that you're providing. But I think that is so unique. Like, it's like what we call in like business called the unique value proposition that no one else can provide. So like right now, I am glad that recently I got a job in Meta. So they are providing quite good benefits. So I'm finally like, yay! I have some money to be able to invest more in my podcast, and in my videos and all that. I can finally, put a bit money, testing out, because like nice. Occasionally there are people that just like message me, even though not so trustworthy. Like they are asking like many people from, I think, from India. They're asking like whether you want SEO or something. But I'm like, of course, they are from their emails and all that. They don't look as professional as many other agency does. But I'm like, yeah, if I do have the money, why not? We can just see how it goes. Like, it doesn't have to be successful. Like we just can see whatever outcome that comes out, and we'll get something out of it. We'll learn something out of it. It doesn't have to be like a guaranteed success. Yeah. It doesn't have to grow my YouTube by like 100 subscribers. At least I know that this thing doesn't work out, what he did, but and something that doesn't work out.
Yeah, and most of life, we sort of pretend like life can be like planned. It can't. We just pretend it can. Like even if you start at like software engineer at like a tech company, like they have a career path, right? Mm-hmm. Like a 10-year career path, but like 99% of people don't end up doing that, right? They change like what they end up doing, what they want to do along the way.
Yeah, that's something like cause like that's something I realized, I guess, a few years ago. Cause every time we when we try to choose a university course, we think about what we want to do in the future, and then we choose the course, which is actually a bit funny, like
we have no idea what we want to do.
Yeah, actually, like we're trying to figure out, 10 years in the future, like what do we want to do, and then we try to make that decision right now, which is really funny now that we think back. But back then, it's even I did it, and then my friends, which is some like I have a few friends which actually studied like biology, chemistry, and then maths. Is it maths? I think it was something else. It's not actually maths. And then she went and studied computer science, just because she searched on Google, and then computer science is one of the most highest paying job in the world right now. So that's why she chose that. And then I was like, oh, like why are people doing this? When I compare like my dad's friend and all that, I realize that actually only my dad is one of the rarer one. He actually studied ACCA accounting, and then he actually ended up starting his own accounting firm and something like that. But he's actually more of a businessman, I'll say. Like if to be honest, but like rarely people just end up doing what they studied for the rest of their life. That's like very true.
Yeah, for me, actually, when I first thought of studying psychology, I actually thought of what I want to do in the future as well. So I thought maybe I want to become a clinical psychologist or something. So that has been my like direction all this while. But after I graduated, when I first started looking for jobs and all, I started questioning myself if that's really what I want to do, or is it just because I have that in my mind for so long that I just have the ego that I don't want to just leave it. I want to continue having it instead of just giving up. But instead, is that really something that I want to do? Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard too, right? I think even things like that change over time. I think the hard thing to project is we think we want the outcome, the title, I want to be a psychologist. And something like psychologist might be like you might picture yourself like doing talk therapy or something, or like studying things in a lab. But then you get that job and you find that like your job is mostly just like dealing with insurance or like doing paperwork, right? And then it's like, okay, what do I do with this? Do I keep jumping ship? Do I keep changing careers? Certain people like me like desperately want to feel good in relationship to their work. So you keep trying, you keep moving, you keep trying. A lot of people give up. A lot of people give up in life. And like all I'm trying to convey like with my writing and my book and my ideas is that like giving up is the default option. And just like saying, well, what are you supposed to do? What I'm saying is like taking an alternative path might suck. It might make you uncomfortable, but it might also be worth it.
I like that. That's something I try to live by right now. Because since we're young, like people just like to go for the easy path. We try to find whatever that's easiest. But then when we realize, but now I actually realize that if you actually want to do something that you want, you like, you love, it's never gonna be easy. But that is the fun part, because it's never easy. You fight for it, you work for it, and then you value it more. And then, that's like something that you actually want.
Yeah, and it's hard, and the thing you want and you'd like for a long time might change, right? And I mean, ultimately, this is what life is about. Figuring out what kind of life you want to live, what are the principles you value, and then keep orienting your life to try to align with that.
Yeah. But I'm interested in one thing, because like right now, are you still like frequently traveling around the world?
That's it for this episode of the podcast, where we discuss with Paul Millett on why don't we just be ourselves. And in the next episode, we shall continue the discussion with Paul on the people around us and how to find our people. So thanks everyone for listening, and hope to see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed, do share with your friends and family and leave us a review on the Apple Podcast. If you are not using an Apple device, you can leave a review on the Apple Podcast website with a link in the show notes. If you have any feedback or thoughts which you hope that we'll discuss in the future, feel free to email them to us at hello@incthoughts.com, or alternatively, you can send us a private message on our Facebook, Instagram or Twitter with the username of incthoughtspod. Thanks again, and see you all next week. Bye bye.